And so, what does it mean to say that a husband has authority over the wife? Specifically, those
Great
particular
question.
verses in
I think you
Ephesians.
don't like controversy. So, first of all, this is a super controversial topic. And not only that, it's one of the ones I personally have been like reading about and thinking about and studying for many years. And I don't think I've ever actually like done like a full like putting it out there of like what I really think and believe about this. So, I'll try to keep it fairly brief. First of all, the Bible does say, it doesn't say necessarily authority, but it does say the man is the head, right? And it has different places where it says, wives, obey your husbands, etc., submit to your husbands, etc. And for a lot of people, including, and a lot of it is evangelical Christians again, and I think many in maybe the more trad Catholic world, believe that means pretty much that your husband is your boss, and that the husband says, hey, make a sandwich, and you make a sandwich out of love for God. Or the husband says, no, you may not leave the house, and you do not leave the house. Or you ask your husband permission every time you do anything. And I just want to say that that is not what it is. And if you actually go and read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, there is actually nothing about this. But what there is, and this is what Pope John Paul has written, so he has actually addressed this passage, and he talked about what does it mean, right, to submit. And he says the whole passage must be understood in the context of the first verse, which is mutually submit one to another. And a lot of people don't like that.
Wow. That is good stuff there.
Yeah, it is. And, finally, people can say, well, that's what the Bible says. But as Catholics, we do believe that the Bible has to be understood with the help of the church.
Of course, yes.
And also there is a development of understanding quite often. There are cultural aspects. There are things which, for example, there's the verse which says, slaves obey your masters. And nobody's out there, I hope, defending slavery, and say, well, the Bible says, so therefore obviously the Bible's fine with slavery. Like, that's not true. And just from lived experience, like I've only been married a few years, but I can see, with my husband, how beautiful a thing it is for us to mutually submit one to another.
Yes.
There's something very special and beautiful about it, which is not the same as, a husband and wife who say, hey, neither of you don't have a right to tell me anything, and, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So instead of saying that just that women have to submit to their husbands, in a way, both do have to submit to each other, to be open to each other's input, to be open to each other's suggestions. Sometimes one might be overdoing it in a certain area, and the other one will be like, hey, like, you need to rest, like, please stop. And you can't be like, hey, don't tell me what to do. Be like, okay, because you love me. I'm going to actually listen. I'm going to be open. And it's not only men who will tell women that. Sometimes the women will tell their husbands that as well, right? And people like to get caught up in the theory of all this. But if you actually look at a really respectful, loving relationship, you will see that happening on both sides. At the same time, we do believe that the husband does have a special role and responsibility. And I think that specifically as the spiritual head of the family, again, what does that mean? For us, the way that we see it and the way that we have also live it out is that we believe that it is Joel's responsibility to initiate the, to be able to take responsibility for the spiritual health of our family, and to be able to say, hey, like, we need to pray, or let's try to go for mass, or whatever it is. And it's my job, to be open to that, sometimes. And this is something, when men and women, a lot of the time, like, we don't want to be told, what to do. And also men don't always like to have, suggestions. So it sort of works both ways. Where, like, women, and I feel like wives, even strong and happy and, like, independent people used to feel like, okay, they found it hard to imagine that I would really be, open to marriage, like being led by a man. But, it's such a blessing to have a man who takes responsibility for his family and for his marriage and for, following the Lord. It's not like, okay, I have to somehow pull him to church. He's the one who will be like, hey, like, we have to go for mass, or we have to go for confession, or how's your prayer time going? And on my part, I have to be open to, his suggestions and his ideas, and not try to constantly improve his ideas or, say, well, no, I don't want to do that. Let's do this instead. I mean, of course, when there's a genuine problem or struggle, to express that, but in general, to encourage him when he takes on that. And I think that's something all women can do and should do. And men also need to step up and do that, not just be content to say, oh, no, my wife handles that. She's the one who sort of makes sure that we will be okay with God. And you're like, no, like, this is your job.
Yep.
And I think that also goes into the overall family life of taking responsibility for your family, not like just sort of letting things slide, letting things just happen to you, or saying, oh, my wife will just figure it out. But making sure that they're doing well, making sure that y'all are where you should be. And sometimes it might mean the wife reminds the husband and says, hey, like, we haven't figured this out yet. But then it might mean that he has to step up and say, all right, like, let's figure this out, let's do this. And can you imagine, right, like what a happy marriage it would be if men did that. And what a happy wives there would be, if husbands did step up and say, like, all right, like we're going to do this, we're going to figure this out, I'm going to like move my family forward in this. So I think that's a very happy and positive element of this whole idea of men leading. It doesn't mean at all that there's any kind of domination or that it's just like telling a wife what to do. It doesn't mean that a wife is no longer able to make decisions, or that she just has to sort of like, whatever her husband finds, she just has to be okay with it. Not at all. We make our decisions together. We work together. If we disagree about something, it's not that automatically his decision goes, which is what some people think it means. It means that we take more time. We'll take more time to pray, to think, to communicate, to understand each other. We'll even put a decision on hold if necessary. And there will be some times where I'll say, okay, I don't fully agree with this, but if that's what you want, let's do it. But there are going to be times when he does the same for me.
Yep.
Right. So again, it's a very practical level, like Catholic marriage. And again, I've been thinking, talking, hearing from other people, and I feel like this is where, and I know we have a lot to learn. I know we have a lot to grow. We are still very young in our own married life. But I think it's a very unhealthy thing to tell people that the husband sort of is like the boss and the wife just has to obey no matter what.
Yeah.
I've heard people saying that. I've heard people, there's actually a book called Ask Your Husband.
Oh my.
Catholic wife. And she even like asked her husband permission to write the book. Like he told her to write the book. And not healthy. And this is something that a lot of young Catholics are entering into, this more orthodox kind of Catholic life, and they're hearing the stuff and they think that this is what it means to be a good Catholic wife. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
No. That why would God have made it like that, right? Why would God have made you like that? Why would God have given you intelligence and thoughts and ideas and feelings, if not to help each other, right? Why would it only be like, okay, just keep your mouth shut and like just do what you guys want, and that's what will make God happy, he'll get you to heaven. Like, no, like it's more complicated, more difficult in some ways, because you have to like work through stuff together. But you have to work on your communication. You have to be humble. Both have to be humble, right? It's not just the wife that has to be humble. So yeah, this is again very controversial, but I think something that can be very good and beautiful if it's done with the overall heart of what Jesus teaches us, what we hear in the Gospel in the New Testament. Not just taking one isolated verse and kind of building a whole theory around just that verse.
Right. That was beautifully put, Susanna. And of course, I think that's why many women fear marriage, because of this idea that's been running, right? Oh, like it's going to tie them down. They don't have a say. But this is good. Thank you so much. You have been such a blessing to us. I'm sure many people who are discerning marriage would agree. Thank you for being on this show.